Well, let's start our webinar. Good morning in Brazil, good afternoon in Germany. My name is Hanno Erwes. I'm the Executive Director of AHK Brazilian Chamber of Commerce in Rio de Janeiro for more than 15 years. In Brazil, we have 3 chambers, and each of them has their core business. São Paulo stands for industry, Porto Alegre stands for agribusiness, Rio de Janeiro stands for the energy sector, and especially for the oil and gas industry. Thanks to a positive political and economical agenda in Brazil of the last few years, the oil and gas sector passes through many changes and opportunities, accounting the majority of the investments in the Brazilian economy. The oil and gas segment needs technology and expertise from Germany, because Germany has the leadership in so many areas. With pleasure, I would like to present our keynote speaker from today, Mr. Milton Costa, partner and director of Lectas Consultant, also member of our directors board at the Chamber of Commerce in Rio de Janeiro. He is specialist in the oil and gas industry for more than 40 years, with experience at Petrobras and IBP, Brazilian Petroleum, Gas and Biofuels Institute. Finally, I also would like to thank our partnership with LFV for the very long and productive cooperation, especially to my friend Betina Sachsse. We have almost 100 listeners in our audience today. Milton, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hanno. Thank you, Betina. I would like to really thank Rio de Janeiro AHK and Latin America Business Association for the invitation. So good morning in Brazil, good afternoon in German. On today's webinar, I'm going to supply a brief update information about the current context of the Brazilian oil and gas industry. Information, forecasts, and considerations presented could be changeful. Okay, first, let's talk about Brazil. The country's economy is facing a huge crisis caused by the coronavirus pandemic. According to the last central bank focus report, 2020 GDP is expected to reduce 5.66%. Inflation rate to reach 1.63%, interest rate at 2%, and the exchange rate to stay around $5 per dollar, equivalent to 6.17 reais per euro. The good news is the forecast for next year. 2021 GDP is expected to grow 3.5%, inflation rate to keep at 3%, interest rate around 3%, and the exchange rate 5 reais per dollar, or equivalent of 5.9 reais per euro. A stable, let's say, exchange rate. Despite the problems, the economy is giving signs of rebound. Exports are heading the recovery, being pushed by agricultural products, iron ore, and oil crude. The trade balance will end up this year with a surplus of $50 billion. By the end of June, refineries processing rates and oil byproducts production had already recovered almost the same pre-COVID-19 levels, except for jet fuel. However, in the backstage of the pandemic impact and its consequences, its political consequences, a silent transformation is being forged. There are many bills being considered in the Congress which lead to a deep transformation of the Brazilian state. tax reform, digital government, new concessions law, new regulatory frameworks for the electric and railway sectors, new gas law, and the change in the pre-salt production sharing regime, only to mention a few. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, in 2019, Brazil ranked sixth, receiving $72 billion as foreign direct investments. With this package of changes, the Brazilian business environment will attract even more investments due to the increment in the competitiveness and the opening up of immense opportunities. Worth to mention that in the oil and gas industry has a very important role to play in this business environment and has the potential to attract huge investments. Worth to mention that in the last months of March and April, the global oil and gas industry was devastated, given the unprecedented strength of price breakdown and demand decline. The immediate supply shock, both supply chain disruptions and labor lockdown, almost blocked the industry. With that negative expectation for the future, stock exchanges and investors panicked. Outflows of capital, assets prices fell down. Consequences are very much known. Hundreds of companies have filed for bankruptcy and thousands of jobs lost. Companies announced capex revision plans, cutting costs, raising debts, and deferring spend. Demand is on its way of recovery, following the open up of the economies, a kind of a V-shaped format. But the prices are in a slow motion move. According to ExxonMobil report, recent published, 1/5 of the world's oil and gas reserves will no longer qualify as proved reserves at the end of this year if oil prices fail to recover. And many companies will have to write off billions of dollars in oil and gas assets. That's not the case for the Brazilian oil and gas industry. Regarding the pre-salt, some delays are expected, but most of the projects were preserved and production records have been established. The Búzios field, the largest deep water oil field in the world, reached new production record in mid-July of 844,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day. It's a world-class asset with substantial reserves, low risk, low lifting cost, and very high productivity. Búzios field's wells are delivering above expectations. There are 7 wells producing above 40,000 barrels per day. The most productive one reached in June an average of 66,500 barrels of oil equivalent per day. Petrobras' good performance, I would say outperformance, is setting the pace of the Brazilian oil and gas industry. Despite the macroeconomic crisis, the company generated solid results in the second quarter. To mention, total cash inflow from divestments of almost $1 billion in 2020, 31% of increment in pre-salt production in 1 year, decrease of net debt by $2 billion, reaching net debt by adjusted EBITDA ratio of 2.34, more than 10,000 employees have signed up for different voluntary dismissal programs. It means 23% of the workforce, solid cash position of almost $20 billion, and oil exports surpassing 1 million barrels per day. So the numbers are really very positive for Petrobras. And the Petrobras is really setting the tone of the oil and gas industry in Brazil.
Milton, hi.
Yes. Hi.
Very nice. These are really, really very good news. All those numbers that you presented, and also about the Búzios field. There were 3 platforms ordered, I think, or maybe 8. You told me beforehand.
There are 4 platforms in operation right now, and Petrobras is expecting to build 8 more until the end of the decade. It means Búzios will have 12 FPSOs, big ones, very complex ones, producing in this field.
Wow, this is really very interesting. And as a supplier, there's not only Petrobras in Brazil, right? Petrobras is a very big player, of course, but at the moment, with the opening of the legislation and exploration rights, etc., there's a lot of partnering also. Almost all international players are in Brazil, or more specific in Rio de Janeiro, or am I wrong about it?
No. The Petrobras has many partners in many of these projects, and also Petrobras is in a very aggressive divestment plan. So there are newcomers participating in all different areas of the deep water offshore areas in Brazil, not only pre-salt.
Mm-hmm. So sorry for the interruption. I just thought those numbers are really, really good also for Petrobras, despite, as you said, the macroeconomic indicators at the moment that maybe are also worldwide, how the economies are facing those challenges with this pandemic, right?
Right. Okay. Well, sorry, just a second.
Yes. I just use the time also to tell everybody, please use the chat to put in your questions in any language you want. We are polyglots. We can and keep your microphones off and just put in your questions anytime you want. Use for that the chat function on the bottom of your screen on the MS Teams. Thank you. Milton, you have other good news for us, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is some information about the oil and gas, the oil industry, but we have also very interesting news about the gas area. There is Brazil might become the most attractive destination of natural gas investments if the Congress approves the bills of regulations for the market. There is a gas law in this very moment in the Congress being considered. So we expect for the next 2 weeks to have an approval of this law. And this law will really change completely the natural gas scenario in Brazil, allowing companies to construct new pipelines through authorizations instead of concessions, beside implementing new transportation contracts under the in and out model. It will determine rules for private companies to access essential gas infrastructure in order to bring resources from offshore fields to the coast, which will be crucial for the pre-salt that is expected to grow the production will grow very significantly in the next years. No? So the National Petroleum Agency will have to really focus on this new regulatory framework in order to bring more players to the natural gas market. This will bring, and that's the main goal of the government, this will bring more competitiveness to the country, trying to spread this gas energy around the country. Brazil, in our energy matrix, gas is playing a very small role, I would say, comparing with the worldwide average. So we need to increment this business, and there is lots of opportunities. So I would say that if we see what's happening in the oil business, the strategy is pre-salt. The focus will be pre-salt. That is for your information. The Brazilian model of exploration production in the offshore is the utilization of FPSOs. So out of 170 FPSOs that are in operations right now in the world, 50 are in Brazil, 40 with Petrobras. So, and we are foreseeing in the next decade many more, not only Petrobras, but the other big operators in Brazil, like Shell, like Equinor, Exxon. And so this is one of our, I would say, the opportunities in this area, because we have to consider offshore projects. 1/3 is FPSOs, 1/3 is subsea equipment, 1/3 is drilling. So Brazil is the biggest market for subsea equipment and biggest market for FPSOs. And we need to modernize, to bring new technologies, especially digital technologies like this twin. It's to monitor we have to monitor the platforms from outside, and also unmanned platforms, and use these digital twins to improve the efficiency of the operation. So this is not a land of opportunities, but a sea of opportunities for suppliers.
Okay, and I see now there is a question also from Mr. Hepp, Klaus Hepp from Vulcan do Brasil. He's asking Milton, which are the Petrobras' latest plans for Comperj? Only gas processing there in the future, or is there something else about Comperj? Do you have any information?
I don't have information about Comperj.
Okay, so maybe we can answer that later and come back to Mr. Hepp. I will take a note here.
I don't have an update information. So far, I know that it's going to be only gas business, but I really don't have the latest information about this project.
Okay, he's saying thank you very much, at least, and we can maybe come back to him later when we have more detailed information. Okay, and there is also some question about So the numbers you gave us, and you already opened a little bit up to the future. And what's the future of oil and gas activities in Brazil and Rio de Janeiro in particular? I think you already gave a very good scenario about it. And when you see this, can you tell us also something about the competition environment in Rio de Janeiro and Brazil? Is it the same as in any other part of the world for the oil and gas sector? Or is there some specification, or is there any question about local content? What's the perspective on that? You told about opening up, internationalization, and also this goodwill of the government to set up to really open the market.
Yeah.
Is it
well,
true?
Yeah, I think that Brazilian oil industry will be one of the most competitive in the world because of the pre-salt. And we need to be competitive to keep. Actually, we are living a energy transition period, and the oil and gas projects they have to be more competitive to compete with the renewables that are really coming. And during this pandemic crisis, the renewables are having a big push in the world. So the survivals in the oil and gas business will be those projects that are extremely competitive, like the pre-salt in Brazil. So I think that this is really Rio de Janeiro is the state is where the most of the projects of the pre-salt is located. So we are going to have a boom in the next years. I'm sure about that. And I think that because of this competition with the renewables, as I said, we need to increase the new technology and bring some ideas, technologies, and investments from outside to complement the Brazilian scenario of oil and gas business. And a very important point, in my opinion, is that in this very moment, because of the exchange rate, Brazilian projects are very cheap for Europeans if we consider the exchange rate. And that's a very good moment to jump in opportunities. And because this oil and gas will last a long period in Brazil. I'm completely sure about that. So those who are going to participate will be really will benefit a lot of this.
So the prices for the barrel of the oil is also recuperating, you think, on the long term?
But if not recuperating, you have to learn how to work with. So today the Brent is a little bit over $40 per barrel, and the projects must be competitive with this price. So if the price increases, the company will benefit. The companies must be very resilient to this kind of crisis and start operating very small prices of oil. No?
So would you say this for Brazil is also a challenge? If you are doing business in Brazil, is a challenge worldwide and more specifically in Brazil, or do you think it's the same to be competitive, to have a good project?
It's worldwide. A big challenge for the oil and gas industry worldwide. But the point is that Brazil market, we have to think about Brazil. Brazil is a giant country. It's a continental size country. I was mentioning for example the gas. No? We have a very small network of gas pipelines, around 9,000 kilometers. Argentina has 30,000 kilometers. And considering the size of Brazil, we need to expand this industry. And we have 210 million inhabitants. So there's a huge potential in the gas business to be.
Do you think there are some infrastructure projects for gas pipelines? Is the government thinking about it?
This gas bill I mentioned that is considered in the Congress right now will open up the doors for different investors in all the chains, all the parts of the gas chain. So I think that this is a great opportunity, and gas is the transition fuel for the future. So as I said, Brazil has a very small utilization of gas in its energy matrix, and a great part of the divestment plan of Petrobras are assets, natural gas assets, being in the midstream or downstream of gas. So Petrobras has already sold 2 big pipelines recently, and is offering in its divestment plan many more assets. No? So
and there is also
the
a question.
Opportunities are here.
And there is also a question on this, because you mentioned divesting. We all know Petrobras is divesting in some areas, and also in renewable or in the gas pipelines or on selling points, etc. There's a question here from Gerhard Hase. He is asking Milton, how is the production level of those offshore fields divested by Petrobras to other companies? Is the production increasing?
Oh, yes. I don't have numbers here, but the production is increasing. Of course, Petrobras has its priorities and is focusing very much on the big fields of the pre-salt. So those assets that are being divested are being incorporated to the new companies, and they are working very hard and ramping up the production for almost all the wells. I don't have the exact numbers, but I can tell you that the Brazilian oil and gas production, the barrels of oil equivalent of June reached 3.8 million of barrels of oil equivalent per day. It's similar. It's a little bit over the February results, the February production. It means that the March and April months that were really the worst part of the crisis were completely recovered in terms of production. Brazil is exporting 1 million barrels of oil per day. Petrobras is exporting, only Petrobras. So the growing of the growth of the industry in this last period, you can feel it now. Analyzing the numbers, no, 3.8 million of barrels of oil equivalent per day. It's huge, and this will increase also the opportunities for the OPEX, those companies that are focused in operation and maintenance. This is another big area that it's only increasing in Brazil. No? So That's really very good numbers for the industry.
Yeah, these are really perfect. We are almost finishing our web chat of 30 minutes, as I'm always insisting on keeping it dynamically. But there is another question I would like to ask also again. It comes from Professor Nazem. He says, Dear Milton, can you provide us some information regarding exploration opportunities for shale gas in Brazil?
Well, we have plenty of shale opportunities in Brazil, but so far the National Petroleum Agency is working in how to organize and regulate the exploration. There are many problems regarding some states and some areas, and some in the Congress there are many initiatives to block the shale oil and gas exploration production in Brazil. So this need to be done in a very, let's say, negotiable manner. So at this very moment, there are very, very few areas, and the National Petroleum Agency is working in order to organize that.
Okay, there's also another very interesting question here about these relations and the proportions of things being sold, imported, exported. Vulcan, like the company Vulcan, is already is asking also, Milton, how much gasoline and diesel is being imported to Brazil today, and what are the plans for increase of production of these inside Brazil? They're talking about added value, right? How much gasoline and diesel is being imported to Brazil today, and what are the plans for increase of production of these gasoline and oil and diesel inside Brazil?
Okay. Well, I can say about the. I have some numbers. Pre-COVID-19 period. So the production in Brazil, we can in great numbers were 2 million barrels of derivatives. I mean diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, and many others. Around 2 million processed, and about 500,000 imported, and another 500 of biofuels. So that's the closing a big number of 3 million barrels of consumption. During the COVID crisis, we had a decline of production and consumption of gasoline, diesel, ethanol, and many others. And now the numbers are recovering very fast. I would say that we are in gasoline and diesel, in ethanol, I think around 10% down from the previous numbers from the pre-COVID, except for the jet fuel that we are really very low numbers. The aviation industry is not working on plenitude. No? So there are plans. We are hearing some initiatives of small refineries that will be built in Brazil in different places. And Petrobras is divesting. Part of the divestment plan of Petrobras includes 8 refineries. So we are going to hear very good news, I think, by the next weeks, because there are 2 refineries that are really on a very good way of closing deals. No? So that's some information about the downstream.
Okay. And I would like to ask the last questions and then close this chat only if there is any other urgent question here, we can also answer afterwards, after this. I would like to remember that everything is being recorded and will be given to all the participants later on, so that you can listen to it again, even those that are here and the other ones that maybe couldn't dial in. But here there's a question from Field Tech Rix from Mr. Gunnar Kornagel. In regards of compatibility, I am wondering about the pricing for the crude oil sucked out from depths over 2,000, 6,000 meters. Now that the barrel reaches prices of less than $20 recently, compared to many places in the Middle East where the oil is sucked out easily. What is the production price for a barrel from Búzios Basin? It's about the competition worldwide, right?
Yeah. Well, the lifting cost, Petrobras recently published in its second quarter results that the average lifting cost of Petrobras is $4.9, and Búzios field especially is 3.4. So it's very, very, very competitive. So now that the barrel is around, it's more than $40 per barrel, the Brent, Búzios fields and many other pre-salt projects are really very competitive in this environment.
Okay, this is also very interesting to have those prices. So 4.9 average and 3.4 in Búzios. Thank you, it's saying Gunnar. Thank you for the questions, Gunnar. Yes, and would you like to recommend or say some closing words for everybody who's listening to us? I think it's a very specific and expert listeners here with us today. Thank you very much for the presence of everybody. Would you like to recommend something, as you are directly from Rio de Janeiro with this very up-to-date information for us all and very specific ones? What do you want to say to us from this beautiful and marvelous city where I was born also?
Well, first of all, thank you for the listeners. And I really still very confident with the future of the oil and gas business in Brazil. So it's a sea of opportunities, as I said. And I think that for German companies, German suppliers, manufacturers, services suppliers, there will be lots of opportunities. We are now facing some big problems regarding the COVID crisis, but the business is almost as normal as before the crisis, no?
Okay.
Especially because of the characteristics of the Brazilian oil and gas industry, having the production in operating FPSOs in the sea, no? Mm-hmm. So I think that if they want some information more details about the industry, please feel free to contact you, Betina, at the Latin American Business Association, and also with the AHK Brazil, that will be really, it will be a pleasure to reply and give some information about it.
Okay, so those are the closing words. Thank you very much, Hanno Erwes, as the Executive Director from Rio de Janeiro, from the Chamber of Commerce, the Deutsch-Brasilianische Industrie- und Handelskammer. Thank you very much for the cooperation. I think it's the 4th year we are doing events in this area for oil and gas. I think it's your focus also in Rio de Janeiro.
That's right.
Yes, so talk to Hanno Erwes. You have seen the contact also from Milton Costa on your screen before. There's his direct email. Feel free to contact us. I'm Betina Sachsse from LAV, from LAV, Lateinamerika Verein, sitting in Hamburg. Obrigada pela presença de todos. so we can talk to us, get some information, some update on Brazil perspectives. We have also numbers about exchange values and perspectives of growing also from the industry in Brazil and in Rio de Janeiro. Thank you very much, everybody. And Maíra, I think you can close the session and we will have a follow-up from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Stay safe.